Hi there, and welcome to This Day in History for April 29th. April 29th is the 119th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, 120th in leap years, with 246 days remaining to the end of the year. Today's word is doodle. Doodle can be a verb or a noun. As a noun, a doodle is an aimless or casual scribble, design, or sketch. For example, his desk pad was covered in doodles, or I like the doodles on your grocery list. As a verb, doodle means to scrawl aimlessly or the act of making a doodle. To produce by doodling. She doodled in her notebook instead of taking notes. Or he likes to doodle to relax and relieve stress. The origin of the word doodle seems to be uncertain. It could be from a word duddle, which possibly related to the word dawdle, meaning to fritter away time, or from a dialect use of the word dawdle that meant simple fellow back in the 1600s. Doodle seems to come into use in today's definition in the 1930s, though. Doodle. I do love to doodle. Today's word doodle was requested by YouTube viewer D. Dally at ddally8851. Thanks, D. Dally. And if you have a word you'd like us to examine in this Word of the Day segment, drop it in the comments. We'll take a look at it. And with that, the galaxy Centaurus A, also known as NGC 5128, was discovered by James Dunlop on April 29, 1826. James Dunlop was a Scottish astronomer working in Australia. This galaxy is only visible from the lower portions of the northern hemisphere and in the southern hemisphere, but it is the fifth brightest galaxy in the sky, so it's an excellent target for amateur astronomers if you happen to be stargazing in those areas. Now, if you happened to catch yesterday's episode, you'll remember that Maryland became the seventh state of the Union in 1788. Well, Maryland makes the news again today, and it is that on April 29, 1861, the Maryland House of Delegates voted not to secede from the Union. This is the birthday of American country singer, guitarist, and songwriter Willie Nelson, born April 29, 1933. He wrote his first song at the age of 7, joined a band at the age of 10. He's written such greats as Hello Walls, Funny How Time Slips Away, and Crazy. Remarkable human being, Willie Nelson. He's not only still alive, but is still working as his health allows. I checked his website, and by golly, he's got concert dates lined up into September. I imagine his work helps keep him young. He turns 91 today in 2024. Happy birthday, Willie Nelson. Now, in case you'd like to see about other things that I might have talked about on April 29th in the past, I'll leave a link to one of those episodes for you. Sometimes in the afternoon, Mr. Bowers and I will sit in the living room and watch various things on the big TV screen. And the other day, we watched a fairly random assortment of music videos on YouTube. And this one came up. I heard it through the grapevine by Creedence Clearwater Revival. And he asked me about the song, since I like to look things up. So I thought I'd tell you all about it too. I Heard It Through the Grapevine was written by Norman Whitfield and Barrett Strong for Motown Records in 1966. The Miracles actually recorded the song in 1966, but that version wasn't released for a couple of years. The first release was by Gladys Knight and the Pips in 1967. This version hit number 1 on the Billboard R&B Singles Chart, number 2 on the Billboard Pop Singles Chart, and was the biggest selling Motown single up to that time. The version by the Miracles was released next in 1968. Marvin Gaye recorded I Heard It Through the Grapevine in 1967, and that version was released in 1968 after the Miracles version. Now, Marvin Gaye's recording of I Heard It Through the Grapevine was initially released on his album In the Groove, but not as a single initially. But, as has happened time and again, disc jockeys played it from the album, and the listening audience loved it, and so Motown Founder Berry Gordy was convinced to release Marvin Gaye's version as a single in October of 1968. It quickly went to the top of the charts and stayed there for some 7 weeks during December of 1968 into January of 1969 and scooted past Gladys Knight and the Pips version as Motown's biggest hit up to that time. Creedence Clearwater Revival recorded the song for their Cosmos Factory album, which was released in 1970. There were quite a few popular songs on this album, including an 11-minute version of I Heard It Through the Grapevine. Of course, 11 minutes is way too long for a single release for radio play, but I Heard It Through the Grapevine was released as a single later on in 1976. I Heard It Through the Grapevine. And I did find links to all the versions I mentioned. Those links are in the description. Alrighty, thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with a link in your email, messaging, or social media. If you enjoy this series, you can check out the playlist that contains these videos. I'll put a link to that in the description. That description lives on YouTube, so for other platforms, I'll include a link to my blog page that's called No Really. You can also find me on Rumble, BitChute, and Odyssey. All those links in that description. Alrighty, that's all I can think of right now. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Alrighty, back to work. I think we got it this time.